All right, this is impromptu screen say slash life is art. I haven't decided where I'm going to post this yet. Maybe post them to both. The Oscar nominations just came out, and um, one of the big films that it's really controversial, to be perfectly honest. Amelia Perez has been nominated for 13 Oscars, and I believe in all the major categories. And I think there are people that see there is a trans component to the film, and they automatically trash the film. I think we're the pendulum. We're in a situation where the pendulum is about to swing hard from one side to the other, to where anything that has certain buzzwords is never going to be considered. And I don't think that that's fair to Amelia Perez. I don't think you should go in with a preconceived notion as to whether a film is going to be good or bad because somebody is from a category that you might not see eye to eye with. And now that I have that out of the way, is it a good film? Well, that depends on what you consider a good film. What's the criteria for a good film? And I think that that's changed today. I think there are people that are still from the old guard that have a certain idea of what a good film is, and the new generation that has a different criteria as to what a good movie is. They have their own set of standards, which in their minds, Amelia Perez has checked off all the boxes, so to say. Now, is this good or bad? It's really neither. If you look at Hollywood throughout the years, the decades, from silent, you can go back centuries, silent films. If you look back at silent films, you'll notice that there was overacting. It was dramatized motions because people couldn't talk. They didn't necessarily reflect reality in how they behaved. They reflected reality in the situations and the circumstances that the characters found themselves in. Well, fast forward to um, the the 40s and the 50s, and the movies they spoke with a certain cadence that may not have even been of the time. I mean, there was almost a rhythmic wit to how they spoke, and it was very stylized. And with that, you know, we have to look at today. The criteria for what's a good film, if you are a more progressive minded person, is the the categories that they want to see, i.e., boxes checked. That is more important than anything. The next thing is representation, and that's one of the boxes that they want to check. And then the next consideration is the film itself. So if we're talking about great film from the perspective of the '90s, with the Scorseses and the Spike Lees and things like that, if we're talking about that, then Amelia Perez is not a good movie. It's not a good movie based off of the old guard standard. Um, Based off of the criteria for today's films, it may be considered the best picture of the year, and why not? It's got a transgender lead. And the leads are predominantly people of color. Um, there are mainly strong women characters. It's a film for, uh, I guess, if you want to say today, which even that's debatable, because the number of people that are actually trans, it's a very small number of people that are legitimately trans. At least those that have you know gone on ahead and come out and said, I'm trans. So who was this movie for? I don't know. I really don't know, because it's a reflection as far as checking off the boxes of the world many would want, but it really isn't a reflection of the world as it is. The world as it is um, largely leans to the old guard that I was talking about, with the traditional ideas of what makes a film good. But perhaps I need to reevaluate. And I need to reevaluate because this film has 13 Oscars. Am I watching films wrong? And I'll be completely honest. Lately, I've been enjoying films, before and I like watching films before I read the reviews. Sometimes you watch films after reviews and you start looking for the shit that they're talking about. You start looking for the flaws and you can't enjoy the film. So what I've done is I've started watching films um from a from a very with a blank slate. I just go in wanting to enjoy the picture. And there are things about Amelia Perez that bothers me, but it's not necessarily the transgender thing. The main thing that bothers me is this this lack of accountability. The main character is a drug dealer that has caused the deaths of people, but because this man is now a woman, somehow he's absolved of all that. And that's a plot point that really isn't confronted in the way that I would have wanted it to be confronted. I don't necessarily understand the singing in it. I do believe that there's something going on there, and I do believe that it was a artistic choice that was on purpose because the shakiness of it seems to be something that the filmmaker has embraced. I could be absolutely wrong. I could be missing something. I don't know. But, watching it, you have to put yourself in a different reality. And this is going to be a weird comparison. There are those of you who know me, I keep calling them horror movies. I think supernatural thrillers is more of an accurate assessment of the films that I like. And I'm not saying that this is a horror movie, but I want to compare it to what would be considered in the category of giallo, even though it's a supernatural thriller. It did things that the average giallo film doesn't do. And what a giallo film is it's an Italian slasher film that is based off of these pulp books that have these yellow backgrounds. They almost always have yellow backgrounds as far as the cover layout. And I was watching this movie called Suspiria. I even own Suspiria, by Dario Argento. And the acting in my mind was absolutely atrocious. It was one of the worst performances I've ever seen, yet that film was lauded as a living, breathing, walking nightmare, second perhaps only to The Exorcist. Aside from some of the visual flair and the creativity in the visuals, I laughed out loud at the dialogue. It sounded as though it were written by somebody who had never actually put together a script. Yet there was something that other people saw that I didn't. So over the years, I've learned to watch Suspiria and I've learned to watch giallo films in a way that I can now enjoy them. But I had to temper my idea as to what was quality and what was not quality. And I'm having to do that with a lot of films on Tubi, which that's completely for another video. That would take a lot of time. But I say that about the giallo films, going back to Amelia Perez, in that is this a reality that we will have to choose to try to understand, or is this a film that is just bad? Suspiria still doesn't resonate with me, although I have an understanding of what Suspiria is. And again, Suspiria was more focused on creating a nightmarish dreamscape, surreal experience first. And then the dialogue was treated as something that you just kind of cut and paste on top. And Argento did that knowingly. He wanted this to be a visual nightmare first and the acting was second. If this is the case with Amelia Perez and everything that I used to know about quality film is now non-applicable in today's terms of filmmaking, then that makes for something that's very frightening and very exhilarating at the same time. Art has always been subjective. But now with these different expressions as to what constitutes quality as opposed to what does not, constitute quality, if if it's an open field, then you have an opportunity for diverse voices. The only problem would be, will there be a situation where one voice and one opinion as to what is good outshines another, or will both share the roost? I think that right there will be the deciding factor as to how we view movies, how awards are given, and how we even understand movies. I'd love to know your opinion. This is your guy, the brave artist Nathan Lee, for Screen Say / Life is Art, because this video may appear in both, as I said earlier. Share, like, and subscribe, and I'd love to know what you think about this. Until the next time, take care.